Hello everyone, this is Akshay here, and welcome to our channel of our GFG Beauty Streak of Day 106. And if you are new to this channel and if you like my content, the way of my teaching, please like, share, and subscribe so that we can learn, maintain, and grow our streak together. So let's look at this question, what it is about, and what are the approaches we can do to solve this question. So the question name is max sum without adjacents. It's an easy categorization. So let's have a look at the question what it is saying. So given an array of size and containing positive integers, find the maximum sum of a subsequence that no two numbers in the subsequence should be adjacent in the array. So first of all, let me clear this thing that what is subsequence and substring. I already cleared this thing many times in my video. So let's say this is the characters given as A, B, C, D, E, F. So substring is like you can go in any order. You can go from here then to there, right? So I can say that BCD is my substring, right? Hmm. And subsequence is nothing but that you have to maintain one order, like you have to move in this direction only. Like what you can do is you can take A and then you can take any of these characters in this row. So you can say if you can take B, and if you have taken B, then you can take any characters in the C, D, F. That is, you can take F. You cannot do such thing that if you go to A to C and then you move backwards, that is C to B. That is not possible, right? You have to maintain this order of going in the rightmost direction, right? And you can pick any elements in that direction. So that is subsequence. So let's back to the question again. So n is equals to 6 and these values are given and the output is 110, and the explanation they are giving it as if you take indices from this 0 and this 3 and this 5, so that sums up to 110. Okay, so let's see the another input that is thing 3 to 7 and 10, and they're saying that 3 and 10 forms a non-continuous 3 and 10 forms a non-continuous subsequence. Okay, so it is a non-continuous subsequence because you cannot take the adjacent element also. So let's have a very quick look that how this is working. So if you have the elements as 5, 5, 10, 100, 10 and 5. So forget about the everything. If I just this test case is given and I to and without writing the code, if I just manually dry run it, that how could be the answer be forming? So I need to make max sum, right? What is my requirement? That need to make max sum and no two adjacent are allowed. No two adjacent are allowed. है ना? So if I have to make max sum, then obviously I will pick the first integer as my maximum, right? So I went here and I picked the 100 as my first mm, what first integer of my subsequence, right? So after taking the 100, now what I can see that I can these two elements are blocked. I cannot take took the adjacent, right? Took the adjacent one, right? So if I just see that I can took 5, I can take 5 in my subsequence now, and as you can see that the adjacent that is 10, I have already crossed that part, right? So if you look into this part now, the adjacent 10 is blocked and these are the two elements remaining, and I can take only one because if I take this 5, this will be the adjacent one, it will be blocked, right? And if I take this 5, this adjacent will be blocked. So since both the values are same, I would take any one 5. Let's say this one, right? Let's say right let's say this one, and this will be blocked, right? So and we have to make a subsequence, so it will be in the format of here. So 5 5 comma 100 comma 5, right? And if you sum it, it will be 110, right? Similarly, let's see for the next test is 3 2 7 and 10. So if I just write it 3 2 7 and 10, so what I will do that I will take first of all the maximum number because I want the maximum sum, right? So I'll just say we'll take the 10 and this element will be blocked. Now I can choose among these two only, right? Because if you choose 3, you have to block 2. If you choose 2, you have to block 3 because adjacents are not allowed. So I will take the maximum of it. I will take this one and will block again this one. So the answer is 13, right? So how am I supposed to write the intuition or the code for this thing? We can see that manually we are just picking up the maximum part and then we are crisscrossing the adjacent, and we are just looking in the left hand direction and the right hand direction for the same thing we did as choosing the maximum. But how we can do this in the code perspective, right? So one thing that is coming to my mind is that if I start moving from the this direction from the leftmost, then what I have to consider is that if I there will be two possibility of for each and every element, either you take it or you don't take it. right? And if you take it, then you have to like be careful with respect of neighbors, that you do not choose the adjacent neighbors, right? So let's try to do a dry run, and then we will try to figure out some code regarding that. And for the dry run thing, I am taking the another example as 5, 5, 10, 40, and 50, and 35. I'm taking this example. And if you like dry run this thing, then what I will do, I will go to the maximum answer, that is 50, right? But if you choose 50, then you cannot take 40 and 35, right? Right. So it will be like you will have just one answer, 50. But if you do one thing, that you choose this number as this number in your answer, 40, then 50 will be discarded, but you can choose again this 35, right? And that is clearly 40 plus 35, it is 75, which is clearly greater than the 50 we choose in the first possibility, right? So we need to handle those part also. So if we choose 40, then this will be blocked, and among this we can choose anything, so that will be 75 plus 5, that is 80, right? So let's check this thing also with the compiler, that are we on the same page of understanding with the question, and then we will do the dry run. So my custom elements were 5, 5, 10, 40, 50, and 35. Okay, okay. So I'll just use one compilation to see that if the answer is coming as 80 or not, and if it is, then we will move ahead with the intuition, with the traversal I need to do. Okay, the expected output is 80, so we are good to go now, I guess. We can do something. So what I will do is, I have two choices, right? I have two choices, either to choose the element and to not choose the element. So when I am at I equals to 0, I will say that I'm choosing this element, and I will make a variable, let's say inclusive. I'm just talking about this I equals to 0 element, not talking about these rest of it. Just forget about it. For I equals to 0, I'm just talking about the 0th element. For I equals to 1, I'm talking about 0 to 1. For I equals to 2, it is 0 to 2, right? So for inclusive, I will say that since I've chosen the element, then the maximum will be 5. And the two choices, right? So if I have not chosen the element, let's say as exclusive, then the maximum would have been 0, right? Just for the case of first element, right? So that this simplifies to a base case of now, that if n is equals to 1, then what I need to do is to return array of 0, right? Now when I go to for I equals to 2, let me use a different color here. When I go to for I equals to 2, what I'm saying is that I need to take 5. Okay, now my current element is 5. You have to understand this dry run, so listen very carefully and we will code it. So for I equals to 2, the current element is 5, and what I am saying is that I have two choices. Either I take it and I do not take it. So if I take it, I will have this variable as inclusive, and what I will say that since I'm taking this element, I will I will take this element in my answer, and I will sum the maximum possible sum from, if I just write it here, 5, 5, 10, 40, 50, 35. I'm talking about this thing this thing. And since I've taken this element, right? So since I've taken this element, I cannot take this element, right? And simultaneously, I want to find what is the maximum sum possible from 0th index to I'm at 2 index, right? And I'm at 2 index, I cannot choose. I'm at 1 index, right? I'm at 1 index, and I cannot choose this thing, right? I cannot choose this thing because adjacents are not allowed. So I want the maximum possible sum from the 0th index till the index I am standing, that is I minus 1 minus 1, right? From here. So since I cannot take this element, then what can be the answer? I can reuse this answer, because this exclusive was pointing to 0 and was saying that I was not choosing this element for I equals to 0, for not choosing this element, and then my answer maximum sum was 0, right? And that's the same thing I want in this, in the I equals to 1, including the case, the first element I'm including, and I want the maximum sum from this left hand side to the elements to the second last element of R, the current pointer, right? It will get clear to you if I move more and more iteration. So I'm just saying that it will be the inclusive value will be pointing to 5 plus the previous exclusive, right? And that was 0, so it will be 5. Now what I'm saying that I will not take this value now. Like what I'm implying is that if I talk about this thing, that in the array what is happening is 5, 5, 10, 40, 50, 35. I'm saying is that I'm this point and I'm saying that I'm not taking this value. So if I'm not taking this value, and for I equals to 1, I clearly said, right, we are just thinking in the direction from 0 to 1 elements, and we are not thinking in direction for these elements, right. So if I'm not taking for I equals to 1 element, then I have two choices, right? Either I can take this element or I cannot take this element, right? Because the only constraint we have in the question is that you cannot take two adjacent elements, right? So since I'm not taking this element, which is at I equals to 1, then I have the choice, I have two choices to make for just the previous elements, right? That I can take it or I cannot take it. And if you clearly, if you like closely observe it, then what is this thing? What is this thing? I am saying that this is nothing but but the INCL value for iteration for I equals to I minus 1. And this is nothing but E EXC value for nothing but I equals to I minus 1. That is, I am at pointer 1, so I am talking about I equals to 0, I equals to 0. Now, how am I saying that? I'm saying that we can take this element I equals to 0, and that's what we found here. That's what we did here, right? So that I will just say that my current, if I do not take it, then my, let's say, the ECL variable will be pointing to what? Will be pointing to what? Math dot max, the previous ICL and ECL, the previous ICL comma ECL, right? Right. And let's make this variable as new ICL. Yeah, new ICL, and it will be pointing to ICL, this one and this one, this one and this one, the previous one, right? And the third step, I will just update it like my the ICL will be equals to new ICL. Hmm? Right? Just bear with me some more time, and you will eventually get this thing, that how this thing is happening, right? Okay. So let's now proceed ahead with the I equals to 2 till the last iteration. Okay, so for I equals to 2, what can I say? For I equals to 2, what are the elements that I'm considering? I'm saying that the elements are 5, 5, 10, 40, 50, and 35. I'm just talking about these elements, right? These elements. And what I'm saying that I'm taking this element now. So my new, let me write it here. Since I'm taking this element and I'm taking this as tick mark and a cross mark. So this will be my new inclusive element, will be nothing but, since I'm taking that element, I will do 10 plus, and since I'm taking this, I cannot take this one, right? And this one, I not taking this one is nothing but the ECL value for I minus 1, right? So I will take the previous ECL value, and the previous ECL value was pointing to which thing? It was pointing to the maximum of 5 comma 0, that was pointing to 5. So it is pointing to 5, right? And if you like look it closely also, if you like just do the manual thing, that among these two elements you cannot take this 5, and you have to find the maximum subsequence sum, then you can only take this element, right, 5, and this will be neglected. So I hope this is clear, this is very clear to you. I tried to give you the each and every intuition here. So it will be 10 plus 5, that is 15. And since I'm not taking this value, so the EXCL will be updated to the maximum of the previous ICL and ECL. The previous ICL was nothing but it was pointing to 5, and and the previous ESCL was also pointing to 5, so it will be 5, right? And this case is nothing but what I'm saying, that in the array of 5 comma 5 comma 10 comma 50 comma 50 comma 35, I am saying that I'm not considering this element, and since I'm not considering this element, I can take, if I talk about these bunch of elements, I can take this 5 here, and I cannot take this 5 here also. There will be two choices, right? And that's why this is nothing but the ICL, the ICL value of the I minus 1, and this is the ECL value of I minus 1. And I've taken the max because I'm always summing this ECL value, the previous ECL value, in this new ICL value, right? I want the max, that's why I'm considering the max thing. I hope these two iteration you were like very clear to understand. Else you pause here and review the video again and understand that how I equals to and I equals to 2 is going, then only proceed for I equals to 3, 4, 5, 6. It will be very easy for you now. Okay, so I hope you got a clear understanding. And if you are liking this thing, that please subscribe also so that we can make the tomorrow's video again. Okay, so for I equals to 3, the elements what I'm talking about is, the elements I'm talking about is 5, 5, 10, it is 40, 50, and 35. So for I equals to 3, I'm talking about this thing, that I'm considering this element. So my new ICL value will be equals to nothing, but since I'm considering it, that will take 40. And since I take this, since I take this element of 40, then I cannot take the adjacent elements, right? And for I equals to 3, I'm just saying that I'm operating for 0 to 3, right? Because we have to consider subsequence so that we are moving in right direction. So that means if I've taken the 40th element, that I cannot take this one. And this is nothing but the EXC value for which we solved for I minus 1, that is for 2. So I will just take that value from here, that is ECL is 5. So 40 plus 5 equals to 45. And if you look at manually also, if you are not taking this 10 element, then what is the maximum possible subsequence formed here? It is 5. Because if you take one of the 5 and this thing, then you cannot take the other neighbor, right? Okay. So it will be 45. And the EXC value will be what? The math again, what I'm doing here is, let me write the elements again: 10, 40, 50, and 35. What I'm doing here is that I'm not considering this element now. That is what the two choices were, to take it and to do not take it. And if I'm not taking this 40, then I have two choices: either I take this 10 and either I do not take this 10, because you have to consider each and every possibility. And this is nothing but the ICL value for I equals to 2, ICL of 2, and this is ECL of 2, right? This is ECL of 2. So I will take the maximum of them. So right, so the ICL I have to always update it also as ICL equals to new ICL, right? Then only I can compare it, right? So the previous ICL and the ECL value was 15 and 5, right? So I will compare it, that 15 comma 5 which is greater, and take it as 15, right? And as you can clearly see also, if you need to find the maximum subsequence in this 5 comma 5 comma 10, then clearly you can choose this 5 and you can choose this 10 to make the sum as 15. So great. So I hope we are on the same page here as of now. So let's do this for two more iterations, right? So let's do this for I equals to 4 now. And let me change the color this time. So the elements which I'm considering now is, there is 5, 5, 10, 40, 50, and 35. So I'm just considering the elements from 0 to 4th index, right? And the 4th index, so the first thing is that I'm considering this possibility, right? If I'm considering this possibility, my new ICL will be pointing to, since I'm considering that element, so I will say that 50 plus, and since I'm taking this element, I cannot take this adjacent element, right? And this adjacent element is nothing but the ECL of the previous iteration just we found, ECL of 3. Am I right? Like if you see, I'm not taking 40, and why I'm saying ECL of 3, if you just see that ECL is here, right? And for I equals to 3, this was this thing, that I do not consider this 40, this was the dry run, right? This was a dry run. So I will just say that 40 plus 50 plus the ECL of previous iteration, that is 15, that points to 65. 65. And if I'm not taking it, the EXC will nothing but the maximum of the previous IC, the inclusive and exclusive. So it will be 45 comma 15, that will be 45, right? And if I just show you in the array format, then it will be 5, 5, 10, 50, 40, 50, and 35. For I equals to 4, this case is that I'm not considering this element, right? This element, I'm not considering this element, so that means I have two choices, either to consider it and either to not consider it. And considering 40 is nothing but the new ICL value for I equals to 3 and the EXC value for I equals to 3, right? That's the main logic here. So that is happening each and every iteration. Okay, so the last things that we will do for the I equals to 5 and 6. So I'm running out of space, so let me okay, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is my last iteration, right? So let me do this here. Let me do this here. So for I equals to 5, I'm talking about the all the elements that is starting from 0 to 5, right? So the elements here are 5, 5, 10, 40, 50, and 35. And what I'm saying is that I'm considering this element. The first case is I'm considering, and the second case will be I'm not considering it, right? Okay, so if I'm considering 35, that means that I do not have to take its adjacent part, right? And take not taking the adjacent part, that is not taking the 50th part, as you can see here in the dry run, it is nothing but the ECL value of I minus 1, that is 4. So what was it? So I will write that new ICL, new inclusive, that I'm taking 35 is nothing but 35 plus ECL of 4, right? And ECL of 4 is nothing but pointing to 45, and that gives us as 4 plus 3, 75. That gives us as 80, right? Now the exclusive value, the exclusive that I'm not including it, and the array will be depicting as this. The array will be saying that among the elements of 5, 5, 10, 40, 50, and 35, I'm saying that I will not take this value. So if I not take this value, that means that the 50 has the among these elements of every range, it has the possibility of 50 to take it and to not take it, right? The maximum possible sum for this range, right? For this range. And we have already calculated for the maximum possible sum for this range for I equals to 4, right? So I will just take the maximum of the previous ICL and ECL. The previous ICL was 65 and 45. So it will be the maximum of 45 and comma 65. So it will be 65, right? Okay. So we are at the end of our iteration now, and we know that we have calculated that for I equals to 5, for 0 to 5, what will be the maximum sum if I take this last element, the 35, and do not take it also. For each and every ith, we have solved that if we take the element and if we do not take the element, what will be the maximum sum. And as you can clearly see from the dry run, this is the case where we have taken the 35, where we have taken the last element. This is the case we have not taken the last element. So that means when we are at this last index, we need to return this, the maximum of this is new ECL and XCL, and the maximum will be what? The maximum will be 80, and that is our answer, right? And we did the dry run, we did the compilation also for this thing. That was our answer. So we need to just code this solution. And if I talk about the time complexity, that this is we are doing nothing but a for loop traversal. So if I just write it here, that it will be O of n time complexity and O of n space complexity. So how should we uh, mug up this pseudo code into our coding section? So let me decide the global steps here so that me and you can simultaneously figure out how we can do this. So what we need to do is that first of all, we need to make two variables, that this is here inclusive and exclusive, right? So INCL will be pointing to the first element, that is 5, and ECL will be pointing to the 0, right? Because ECL at the first is saying that I'm not considering the first element, right? And then we have to make this new ICL variable that is also pointing to 0. So this will be our first step, these three variables, right? The okay, okay. So what will be our second step? So our second step will is that we are running a for loop. So second step will be for loop. Where do I write it? So second step is for loop. And for loop, I am always calculating new ICL, which is nothing but if I just write it code in the perspective of code, which is nothing but array of I plus ECL. And I'm calculating, this is let's say A step and this is B step, and I'm calculating the ECL, which is nothing but the maximum of ICL comma ECL. And at the third step, I am always updating it that my current ICL is nothing but the new ICL which I just processed, right? This is the steps. And at the end of the for loop, I just have to return the maximum of this and new inclusive and exclusive. So let's code it now. So I think we are good to go. You just have to understand the first two iteration, and this paint board must be looking like very uh, untidy. But you as I said, just understand the first two iteration, and you'll be able to like follow up with me for the rest of the iterations, right? So this question was in the easy category, but there was like a good logic building for this question. I will say. let's do it now. So step 1 is int ICL is equals to array of 0, right? So this is nothing but, if I just write the comments for you, that will make you more easy to understand. This is nothing but the maximum sum including the zeroth element, right? And this is int ECL is equals to 0. This is the maximum sum excluding zeroth element, and I'm just talking about from the first element. This is just for the first element, right? And I will say the new ICL is equals to 0, right? So step 1, I did this pre-processing for first element. From the second element onwards, we need to pre-process it using a for loop. So I will say from second element ONWA onwards, right? And there was one base case that if n is equals to 1, right? Because as you can see the constraint, it is saying that n is 10 power 6, right? Like n is starting from 1 to 10 power 6. So for n equals to 1, what I need to do, that I need to just return the first element, because that will be the answer, right? There are no adjacent in it. Okay, so for step 2, we are processing from second elements onwards, and I will write a for loop for int I equals to 1, I less than n, I plus plus. I will make a new ECL value. New ECL is nothing but I am including my ith element. So if I'm including it, I will say array of I plus the maximum sum from 0 to I minus 2, right? So it will be the previous ECL value, right? I already explained you. So the ECL will be pointing to what? Math dot max, the previous iteration of ICL and ECL. That this is this these two lines are the main logic, man. I have explained you in the very deep in the I equals to 1, I equals to 2 in the dry run. So if you're still not able to understand, that should not be the case. But if still not able to understand, you must like go behind the video and see to it again. And now that I'm updating my ICL value with the new ICL or the current ICL I just made for each and every iteration, and at the last I just have to return the return math dot max new ICL comma, right? And let me write some more comments so that you can understand it more easily. So this is nothing but taking the ith element plus the maximum sum possible from the zeroth element, the inclusive zeroth element, to to I minus 2. Why I minus 2? Because I have already taken the ith element, and that means that no two adjacents are allowed. So I cannot take I minus 1 also, right? So I need to pre-process, I need to take the answer from the pre-processing, which has from 0 to I minus 2, right? And that is nothing but the ECL of just the previous index. And this is that I'm not considering the ith element. So if I'm not considering, if not considering ith, then this implies that you can take I minus 1, you can take and not take I minus 1, right? You can take and not take I minus 1. And this is the thing that we are always doing. The ICL was saying that you can take the ith, and the ECL was saying that you cannot take the ith. So that is why I'm taking the maximum of ICL and ECL in this case. So the new ECL, the new exclusive element, which is saying that I cannot take the ith element, is nothing but the maximum of the inclusive and the exclusive of I minus 1. I hope you're getting this point. You can take the you can take and not take of I minus 1 and take the max and take its max. Yeah, take its max, because we need the maximum sum, right? Okay, so for my side, I think that is it. and let's compile and run to see if the test case is passed. If the test case passed, then we will go for the submissions. Exactly. So our output and expected output matches, and the time complexity of this code is O of n, O of n, and since n has the constraint power of 10 power 6, so let me write this thing here again because I always say this thing in my videos. So I'm coding in O of n, and O is nothing but 10 power 6. So this is obviously less than 10 power 8, and since we have coded the right solution, so it will not give TL and it will get submitted. And if you're not able to understand the 10 power 8 logic, then you must watch my TLE video. It will be flashing up here now, and you must see to it. And now we will finally hit the submit button, and we'll see for ourselves that it gets submitted or not. Okay, so that's great. Our code is submitted, and this was an easy category question, but I will say that it was a medium type question, and that's why my videos are sometimes long. I do not want to miss any part. So okay, so if you are if we are here for one sole purpose of learning and growing, then that's the I will say the best platform for free to all of you guys. So you must utilize it. And few last thing that's my DSL repository. You can start and fork to get hold with the source code, as well as that's my Instagram channel I made just for you guys so that we can connect 24 into 7 for any doubts or guidance if you may have. And regarding our journey, if you are like achieving anything, then post a LinkedIn post and you may tag me as well on there, and we'll obviously give you a shout out like the last time Sheikh Nair. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrongly. So he had maintained his streak and had got some goodies from GFG. So that's very great. Congratulations to him. And okay, so if you are new to this channel and if you like my content and the way of teaching, then please subscribe it so that we can meet again tomorrow for the next video. Until then, keep growing, keep learning. Take care. Bye bye.